But you must walk with me today. Are you ready to walk with me? Okay, so that means everybody's plugged in, paying attention. Nobody's... You'll miss something if you do. Okay, I'm checking in with everybody. All right. Happy 4th of July. I want to start by talking about ideals. An ideal is a concept that is absolute perfection in its form. This is by definition in my beautiful Webster's dictionary. Ideal is the ultimate form of excellence. It's completely satisfying. Metaphysically, we would call an ideal win-win. An ideal is a concept that creates a form, a situation, an outpicturing that is win-win for the good of the whole. In the state of perfection, everyone is blessed, everyone is equally held in this beautiful state of perfection, good of the whole for all. Do you metaphysically follow me a little? Okay. Ideals, however, are interpreted by the perceptions of the time. So we can have an ideal, and the ideal is perfect, but how much perfection can we perceive at that time? Okay? So I wanted to read for you all, since it is the 4th of July today. Okay, this is the Declaration of Independence that was written in 1776. The Declaration of Independence. This is before the wars, before the peace. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are empowered by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, we would say, yeah, yay God, isn't that awesome? It's a great ideal, isn't it? But from their perspective at that time, the Declaration of Independence, perhaps they were thinking, all men, all free men, basically of European descent, that are not supporting the British. That's what we're thinking. And all of us are free and entitled to the pursuit of happiness. And the rest of you guys, not so sure about. Because you know what happened when the war ended to those that supported the British. They lost everything. Their pursuit of happiness was not acknowledged here on this country. We sent them packing and took their property and said, thank you for the visit, and now you must go. But you can see the ideal was perfect, wasn't it? But you see the perception was from a concept at that time. Now, in our perception now, wouldn't we replace the words all humanity? We would say all humanity is created equal. All humanity, regardless of anything. You're human, male, female, child, adult, you're human. All humanity is equal and empowered by their Creator, and we want you to pursue your happiness. Do you see how our perception has evolved over these last several hundred years? Yeah, but the ideal was there, wasn't it? It was beautiful. Okay, now we want to switch to talk about another ideal that is important to us as metaphysical Christians. When Jesus, let me hand this to you, Patrick. You be the holder of the sacred documents. As Jesus taught and healed, he loved, didn't he? And as he was leaving, the Gospels and all of the texts tell us that the night of Thursday night, the Passover, he said, I give you all a new commandment. He said, love one another as you love yourself. Love one another as I have loved you. Love. Now, can you feel in the ideal of what he is saying, the perfection of that? Love one another as you love yourself. Love one another as I have loved you. This means love one another also as God loves you. Love one another as God loves you. Have we reached that ideal yet? Not yet. Do we love one another as we love ourselves? Not yet. Do we love one another as Jesus loved us? We're working on it. We're working on it. But the ideal is still there, and in it is the win-win. It's the perfection. It's the ideal. If we did that, if we could evolve to that, what would our world look like? It would look like we are all God's children in that beautiful pursuit of happiness, all God's children expressing. I love it. We do little Facebook posts, and for those of you in Cyberland, you should check out our Facebook posts. They're just little sayings. And I posted about a month ago, God loves me more than I do. And it was a realization of reality that I am so deeply loved, I can't even fathom how deeply loved I am. And I need to love myself more. Perhaps you do too. All right. When we talk about love, by definition, it's affection based on personal or family ties and an expression of affection. So love is energy. It's a noun and a verb. Love is energy, and love is the giving of that energy. Okay? So, if God is love metaphysically, therefore our true state of being is love. We're nothing but love. And the energy we share is love. But in our relative world, in our relative reality, we say that we love someone when we have found a pathway that they can receive our energy and we can receive theirs. A pathway. So I love David. Why? I gave birth to the kid. I love David because he is my son. So there is a pathway that will never stop because he is my son. And he is legally obligated to love me because I'm his mother. No exemption to that rule. But the pathway is established. Now, people that we meet that become our friends, we look at our friends and we say, oh, do we have commonality? I know you're a child of God, but can you receive my human love? So we look for pathways in, like I might love Patrick because he loves metaphysics. And he might love me because I love metaphysics. I might love Patrick because he loves the Bulldogs. Any football people? Do you not automatically love your team's people? Your clan? Brothers. You don't even know them, and you're brothers because you have the same team.
The Bulldog Nation.
And the Bulldog Nation, of course. But we find inroads in, we love, and so someone can receive our love and then someone can give us love back. This is a relative exchange based on our relative reality. Everybody say I'm getting it? Okay. So this is Cindy. I have loved a lot of people. I'm a minister, so I counsel with people. I know people's stuff. And I love them, and I want to help them, and I care deeply for them. As a baby in the field, and doing it for 30 years, as a baby in the field, you feel so intimate with everyone that you counsel. I have loved a lot of people, and I wanted to be as important to them as their friends were. I wanted that. It took me a long time to realize I was their minister. I was not their friend. I loved them in all aspects of their journey because I got to hear it all. And I would share my little stories too. But I was their spiritual counselor. So they loved me as minister, and I was important to their spiritual life, but not their daily life. I didn't get the calls for coffee. I didn't get the invitations to the birthday parties. Weddings, of course, because I was officiating. But weddings and funerals, attended many of them. But do you hear the difference? I shared my love in thinking that because I have access to all the intimate details, that I am now just so deeply a friend, and I'm just so not in their mind. When I learned that it was okay just to be the minister, then the love could flow easily. I'm just the minister, and I have a part in their spiritual life because I know who they're going to call when they're in trouble. I get those phone calls. And I know when life is working for them who they're not going to call. but I still love them. But do you see how the pathway is specific? Everybody seeing it? Now, I want you to think about friends that you have specific pathways with. Like, you have people that you can go shopping with. Does anybody have shopping buddies? Love shopping people, don't you? I love my shopping buddies. But you might not go to a picnic with them. They might not invite you to a picnic. I want everybody to hear it's okay to have these various pathways of relative love. It's okay. It's okay. It is love being exchanged at the level someone can receive, and they're giving it back to you at the level you can receive. Those are perfect. So, love finds a path. In the ideal path, I am child of God and you are a child of God. In the ideal path, I will see the Christ in you. I can hear anything you're doing. I'm going to support you totally because it's your choice. I'm going to love you as God's beautiful child, and you're going to love me as God's beautiful child. And that's the ideal of it, right? But until we get to that, we have to deal with loving at the relative level. And what was the title of our service today? People we love, separated by ego. Okay. I have heard this my whole life. I don't know if you have. I really love you, but I don't like you right now. Or I really love them, but I don't like them at all. You know, if you don't like me, I know you don't like me. And I am not feeling your love. So you can say, I love you, but I don't like you, but you're not loving me at all. The minute you don't like me, you put a wall up. It's like, okay, I accept you don't like me. Don't say you love me. Because right now you're not. Do you see? We have allowed ourselves the idea that we can love and still have these barriers, still have these conditions. So, if I love you, we have once had a path into each other's consciousness, right? If I don't like you now, you are not doing what I want you to do. That's just all there is to it. You're not doing what I want. How many times have I fallen into that with Patrick? I love you, but not right now, because you're not doing what I need you to do. What does that do to your marriages? What does that do to your partnerships? What does that do to your friendships when we put those boundaries up, those barriers up? When we say, I love them but don't like them, we are actually saying, I want you to be something that agrees with my perception of reality. And you do not agree with my perception of reality. Therefore, the highest ideal, are they child of God? Are you child of God? I may not agree with you, but I can still love you. I don't have to play something I don't want to play, but I can still love you. I wanted to talk about spouses in particular because that seems to be our hot button. Does anybody want to go there with me? Partnering? Couples? Okay. Thank you for your support. I don't care how long you've been in a relationship, if it's 6 months or 20,000 years. There will come a point when you will look at your partner and say, most of the time outwardly, because you don't have filters, you will say, you are not the person I fell in love with. You are not the person I married. What is wrong with you? You have changed. Do you see? And what we're saying to them is, my pathway to loving you that I established in the beginning may have changed. Maybe I've changed. Maybe you've changed. I don't know, but something's wrong here. And the pathway to love you now is not the same as it once was. Isn't that easier to say than I don't love you right now? I'm not finding a pathway right now. But we do this to our spouses. We allow the ego to block the love instead of allowing love to correct the situation. I'm going to read that again. We allow the ego to block the love because you're not the one I fell in love with, instead of allowing love to correct the situation. All we are saying is right in this moment, you are not representing my perspective of reality. Period. Got it? Okay, I want you to think about it. Does anybody deal with this? I want you to think for just a moment about, does Does anybody have an ex-husband or an ex-wife or an ex-lover that in your mind you say, even today, how was I ever with that person? What was wrong with me? What? This is the perfect example where your ego has squashed out all the love that you once had, squashed out the path that you once had to move into each other's field, and has defined it as not my reality. It's not my reality. They're wrong. They don't fit my reality. You love those people once. There was an inroad into one another once. That's a reality. It happened. We move on. We go to different situations. We change. The inroads change. But we should never negate the fact that we actually love that person. They were part of my world. Everybody hearing me? Okay. Because when you have what's wrong with me? How could I have ever done that? Who's in charge of your mind at that moment? Your ego. Your ego has separated you from what once was good. I want to share very quickly. I share this story a lot, but I love it. Jesus doesn't get involved in personal relationships very often. You realize that? He really doesn't. This is one of the few that he does. And the only reason he gets involved in this personal relationship as a marriage counselor is because the female comes to him and says, "Oh, Jesus, my husband's a mess." So, yeah, this is Ruth and Asher. And Ruth is a sister of Mary and Martha. So Ruth knows Jesus intimately. And she's home talking to Asher, who is, I believe, a Sadducee. He's in the Jewish faith, strong faith. And she's talking about Jesus. And he's saying, "Betrayal! How dare you talk about this man? You're a Jew." And she goes, "Well, to heck with you. I love this man. He's fabulous. And you should blah, blah, blah." And Asher goes, "Well, you should blah, blah." And so she leaves. She packs her bag and leaves and goes to her sister's house, and Jesus is there, and she goes, Jesus, my husband is a mess. He kicked me out of the house, blah, 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 blah. He doesn't believe in you, blah, 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 blah. What does Jesus say to her? Go home. He says, go home and shut up. Go home and speak not of the Christ. Go home and live the Christ. If you believe it, go home. And if you had walked in wisdom's way and been content to hold your peace, this grief wouldn't have come. What made her not walk in wisdom's way? Her ego that said, you have to believe what I believe. And her husband goes, oh, heck no, we've always believed this. You're changing the rules. And she goes, yeah, I am. Ego, 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 ego. Their love negated. Got it? So Jesus says to her, go home. Not that everybody should go home, but it says to go home. He said it takes a long, long time for the light to break into the shell of prejudice. Patience is lessons that you need to learn. The constant dropping of water wears away the hardest stone. The sweet and holy innocence of a godly life will melt in tolerance much quicker than the hottest flame or hardest blow. Wait a little time, go home with sympathy and love, talk not of the Christ nor of the kingdom of the Holy One. Just live a godly life. Refrain from harshness, and you will lead your husband to the light. And that's what happened. Several chapters later, we meet Asher, and he's following Jesus. Oftentimes, we let our egos take a stand, and it interrupts the flow of love that we once had. Now, that flow of love may not be continued. Maybe it is not meant to go on. Next. Maybe it has fulfilled its destiny at the human relative level. But do we really need our egos to take a stand, to give us the strength to say, I am not feeling resonant with this flow any longer. I can love the Christ in you, but I need to go over here. Do you see the difference? Then we don't have to kick people or make them bad or let our ego create a block. Because when we create a block to love with our ego, we've created a block to all love, all love. So we think we're going to leave that spousal energy. Ugh, I'm so done with you. We're going to leave that spousal energy. We're going to go out in the world. We've got a big old block, and we're going to find the knight in shining armor, ladies, or we're going to find that beautiful princess that needs us to save her, guys. But we're going out with a big block to love. How hard is it to find love? We have to soften again. We have to open to love again. We have to start melting away the block that we created. Ego's separating us from love. I want you to think about your past life, just this one. Think back. Friendships, go all the way back to childhood birth. Friendships, relationships, come all the way back up. College friends, all the way back up. How many of the love relationships have you got a block of negation around that you just separated because something didn't work anymore? Instead of saying, no, they're children of God, we just are not on the same relative truth path. Their relative truth just isn't my relative truth right now. But ideally, we're all children of God. Can you guys see? And if you find that you have a lot of blocks in your history, maybe that's why it's really hard to find love now. Maybe that's hard to melt into that beautiful energy of love now. Hear me? Okay. All right. I love Ruth and Asher. I've had people do this to me. You guys ready? People have said to me, I loved you so much. And then they'll come and say, oh, I found out something about you. And I don't love you anymore. Well, I'm like, oh, really? You did ya? Okay, that's great. Well, if you found out something about me that you don't like, I want to ask you 2 questions. Number 1, why didn't you ask me about it? People paint real interesting pictures. But I was the screenwriter. I can tell you what happened in that scene. Why didn't you ask me about it? Number 2, why didn't you ask God why it bothers you so much? Because it may just be your issue. And I'm playing a role so that you can heal something within you. I want you to think of those 2 questions, and I want you to never forget them. When you start to judge somebody or let something step in the way of your love, ask. I need to talk to them directly. Hey, heard this. I don't think it's true, but gosh, is it? You know? Or, God, why, and why does it bother me? Why can't I still love them? Why can I not still love them? Okay, everybody getting that? Okay, there's another layer of love and ego that I want to talk about quickly, not belaboring. And this is when we love somebody, and this could be friend or companion, but this is like you trust them with your heart. You literally give them your heart. You literally trust them with everything. And they have an into our heart, and then they do something that hurts us so badly, devastatingly. Our egos are crushed. We thought we knew them. Why did they say that? What's going on? And we melt into this puddle of total unbelief that they have taken all the love I gave them and thrown it in the trash. You guys know what I'm talking about? Okay. So protection is also part of the ego's job. The minute we go into that feeling that we have lost a love or someone has hurt us or whatever that we trusted with our heart, what does our ego say? Protect, 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 wall, 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 never again, and never again. I'm not trusting them, I'm not talking to them, they're out of my world, block them on Facebook, whatever you need to do, blah, 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 blah. Got it? Yeah. So I had a situation like that happen many times. But this one was really important. This is someone that I love dearly, 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 oh my God, and loved for years. So something was said, I'm melting, crying my eyes out, crying. Who do I call? Call my son. A little metaphysical mind. And I'm crying. You wouldn't believe what happened to him. You know what he said to me? Stop crying. No, he never tells me to stop crying. He's very kind. He never tells me a story. He goes, Mom, you guys have way too much history to let one moment in time destroy your love. Way too much history. You guys have been through so much together. I went, yeah. And I heard it and I felt it, and I felt 20 years of friendship, up and down and all around, and fears and failures and triumphs and success and all the sharings. It was like the bank of love that person had in my heart was huge. The history of love was huge. And he said to me, you don't know what they were going through. You don't know what they were thinking. You don't know what you did. He's always honest. What did you do, Mom? You might have done something. We got to look at all of it. But the first thing you got to do is not throw it away. Not throw it away. And I've held on to that, and I held on to that in all the situations that came after the fact. Because our egos want us to throw things away, to keep us safe, to keep us isolated, to keep us in this normalcy. So we are supposed to have stuff rip at our hearts, because that helps our hearts grow. Any bodybuilder, what are you looking to do? Rip that muscle. Make that muscle grow. That's what you're doing. All right. The ego activators, let me go over this again so you hear it very clearly. Ego activators, you are not doing what I want you to. I do not understand what you are doing. How did you get in my world anyway? And that's when your relative truth is not matching. But your absolute, perfect ideal, the love is there. Got it? Okay. You're not doing what I want you to do. I don't understand you. Ego activators. Ego gets activated. Loving you is not safe. Ego is activated. Activated ego. Okay. And you want my love to fit your world. We didn't go into that one, but it's pretty self-explanatory. When people start yelling at you because you're not their reality. You want my love to fit your world? You want me to change to be acceptable to you? Ego activator. No. Ego activator. You see, the blocks come up. So we want to realize that love, without that ego protection, has a natural way of moving to the flow of where it can be received. If I can acknowledge that I once loved this being, they want me to change. I don't feel it, so I can realize that I'm not what they want right now. So now I can acknowledge that the receptors aren't there. It's just not receptive. Doesn't mean they're bad. Still Christ, still a child of God, and I still love them. We're just not exchanging right now. It's easy. I love you, but you are no longer resonant with my reality. I love you, but I am no longer resonant with your perception of reality. And remember, it's about evolving our perceptions. Everybody say, I'm getting it. Okay, I wanted to read you a few things from Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East. This is 139, Book 1. And I want you to, if you could, please just listen to these words. How can love be expressed unless it flows through the one expressing life? That would be you. It flows through the consciousness. The whole organism responds. It thrills every cell with love with the love it expresses. Then the body becomes harmonized. The soul becomes radiant. The mind becomes enlightened. The thought becomes keen, brilliant, alive, and definite. The word becomes positive, true, constructive. The flesh is renewed, purified, and quickened. Affairs are adjusted, and all things assume their true position. That is letting love flow through you. All things assume their true position, which means we do not have to carry the world with us until they can see us. We have to be about our expression of love. Who wouldn't want all that? Love brings us this, ego blocks it. Love brings us this, ego blocks it. You following me now? All right. The ideal of love. Everyone is a Christ. Everyone has free will, and I can still love them, even if I do not have that reality in my perception, that perception of my reality. I can still love, even though I do not have their perception in my reality. The Christ in them. I'm loving the higher in them. I'm not giving them my energy. I'm just loving the higher in them and saying, you, child of God, learn how you need to learn. I'm going to invest my flow where someone is receptive to my flow. Got it? The ideal. Our country. The ideal. Every human is valued, has the right to liberty and pursuit of happiness. Here's my question. Can we achieve this in our country if we haven't achieved the ideal of love? If we cannot love those in our personal world, how can we rise to fulfill the ideal of a country where every human is valued and has the right to liberty and pursuit of happiness? In our world, we need to have that. Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East, Book 169. The very root or heart of all government is the consciousness of those governed. The root of all government is the consciousness of those governed. As we raise our consciousness to be embodying and holding the ideal of love, the country's consciousness will raise. Got it? Okay. Then they go on to talk about the United States, and they talk about how great mistakes have been made, but they see a path for us. When your nation does recognize its truest state or mission and joins hands with Spirit and expresses as God wishes it to express, or lets the Spirit unfold from within, we can see for your great nation a marvel far transcending the power of any human tongue to describe. There is no question but it took the great strong beak and talons of the eagle to hold your nation together during its development. But when the true spiritual light comes, it will be seen that the dove is mightier than the eagle, and the dove will protect what the eagle now guards. Beautiful, huh? All right. 149. Masters are speaking. We look upon three great events, one that happened long ago, the one that typifies to you the birth of Christ consciousness in man, the birth of the baby Jesus. Then the one we can see coming when your great nation accepts and realizes the Christ consciousness. Then we turn to the third and last, greatest of all splendors, the last coming of the Christ, when all accept the Christ within and live and unfold in this consciousness and grow as the lilies grow. This is at one minute. Pretty powerful. And as a metaphysical minister, let me just enlighten you. Our country coming to Christ in consciousness does not mean everybody becoming Christians. It is not a religion. It's an awareness that we are God's children. That's Christed awareness. In me as the Christ of God. In every animated human is the Christ of God. And we are born entitled to all of these inalienable rights. It's an awakening to the divinity of mankind. Do you think we have a chance as a nation to do that? Yes. Thank you. And where do we start, peeps? Here. And how do we start? Love. Please love your neighbor as yourself. Love one another as I have loved you. Love as God loves. Share your light. Stay on your relative truth. Love all who come into your path. And if they're not on your path, love the Christ in them. They are your brothers and sisters. Love as God loves. Let's go within. Let's put our feet on the floor and just breathe. Feel that beautiful light of God pouring through you. And see a column of light just coming over you. Feel the love of Jesus Christ gently taking your hand, for we are metaphysical Christians. And feel his light lifting you up into a space of expanded consciousness. There is only peace. And as you stand in this space, just begin to visualize your world, your light, and just gently become aware of any blocks to love that you have created. Needs for protection, judgments, because they are different than you. And whatever comes up, one or two, maybe you don't have that many, but whatever comes up, just be aware. As the Christ begins to show you how this blocks and limits your expression of God. Feel your heart open and send love to one of the blocks, one of the walls, one of the barriers. I withdraw my ego's assessment of this, and I let the power of love harmonize it within my consciousness. And you may want to do a couple more times. I withdraw the ego's assessment, and I allow the love, the Christ love in me, to resolve and harmonize this energy. And you should feel a peace coming through you. You should feel energy coming back into your consciousness. And let the vision go and feel that beautiful love of Father, Mother, God, that bright light pouring through you. Father, Mother, God, we choose to love as you love. Evolve our perception to the ideal. And we are so very grateful. Feel that love and gratitude moving through you. Feel the peace, and let your focus just come back into this moment. I am child of God. I choose love. And take a breath and gently open your eyes. How you feel? No more walls. No more walls. Okay, we have massive homework to do. All of us. We're learning to shift our perception so that we see and love and honor all the love that has been and all the love that will be. We're shifting our perceptions. And as we shift our perceptions, who does it help? The whole. Helps the whole. Say, Yega.